Welcome to What to Say and How to Say It. I'm Nina Rosner, and I'm with our favorite licensed professional counselor, Kyle Hargrove. We are going to talk about a topic today that, if you do it at work, pretty useful. It's kind of a popular psychology thing at the moment, but it will blow up your marriage if you do it in your relationship. There are things like that out there that work at work and destroy your marriage. So, we're going to dig into this topic, and hopefully, you'll emerge from the episode with a different skill and different mindset around the topic of gray rocking than you have now, even if you've never heard of it. So, to get us started, be sure to go over to our website, greaterimpact.org, and take our marriage assessment and find out, are you doing the things that help your marriage or hinder it? And if you feel like you're doing a great job, maybe you should be working with us. Reach out, let us know. And if you need help, that's what we're here for. So let's dig into this topic of gray rock. Like, is this something I'm going to put around my patio this year? Lots of gray rocks, or sorry, I was trying to be funny. It kind of didn't land.
Well, that trying to be funny is good, but that's exactly what gray rocking is about. It's one of these things where we take an object and we turn it into a verb. I remember back in the 80s when, and maybe before that, but I was not familiar with it prior to that. Um, the word Xerox.
Oh,
Xerox is a
yeah.
machine or
Yes.
company that,
Mhm.
but in an office, it's a machine. But we turned, the word Xerox into a verb. All right, would you
Yeah.
Xerox this for me, please?
Yeah. Did you
And
Google that? Right?
yes,
Yeah. Same
Google, we've
thing.
done the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
And,
We do that.
so forever we Xeroxed all kinds of things, most of which were appropriate and should have been Xerox. Some, well, you know the story.
Stop. I don't want to know.
So
Wrong podcast, Kyle.
it was fun though to just smash your face onto the screen on a copy machine and see what came out. But anyhow,
Anyhow, what is gray rocking?
well, it's about a gray rock, actually, and I know that it's a stretch, to get there, but gray rocking is a communication strategy that allows one person to, or maybe a lot of people, I don't know, that would be like a gray rock pile. Um, but it allows a person to deal with another individual that is emotionally toxic or manipulative.
Mhm.
And the way we do that is we make ourselves as positively uninteresting and unresponsive as a gray rock. So I guess black rocks must be more interesting than gray rocks because it's not black rocking,
Apparently not.
it's gray rocking. And I guess gray is kind of the neutral, around here in our part of the country, it would be like beige rocks because we have a lot of
That's an
sandstone and limestone
yeah,
and things like that. So they're
yeah.
they're not gray at all. Um, but all ironies aside, uh, the method gives brief, neutral, and unemotional responses to avoid providing the fuel
Fuel.
that person, yeah, that
Yeah.
person craves. Because as soon as that fuel is poured into them, here they come.
Hmm.
And I think that the goal is to make those interactions so unrewarding, actually so repulsive, that the person actually loses interest and just goes away.
Yeah.
And so you have probably practiced this, whether you realized you were doing it or not, or realized that it had a name.
Yeah.
I know that I have, and I know that most people I know, if they're honest, they're going to admit that they have. I remember when I was teaching school, and you don't get to pick your colleagues as a school teacher. You
Hmm.
don't get to pick your next door neighbors as a school teacher. And sometimes you don't get to pick your teaching partner.
No.
And I may or may not have had a teaching partner at one point that was a dumpster fire
Yeah.
when it came to being manipulative and um, passive aggressive and toxic, and wanted to make this teacher wanted to make their problems everybody else's problems.
Oh,
They wanted everybody else to buy into their problem. They wanted everybody else um, to react to this person. When I'm working real hard not to say him or her,
right.
but
If you have anybody that knows you that's listening, it's like, is this
yeah,
me? Is he
but
talking
see,
about
they
me?
they they crave this emotional response from you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and once they get it, they're off to the races.
Yep. And the thing you said, that tiny little thing you inputted into the conversation becomes the fuel that gets twisted up and argued with and It's like, well, that wasn't exactly what I meant. Well, what
Yeah,
did you mean? So you
right.
learn not to put anything in the fire because
Yeah,
whatever you put out there, whatever you contribute, right? Like
it's
I have
gonna
had
burn.
people like that. Yeah, it's gonna burn it and it's gonna burn like it's got gasoline on it. Yes. Yeah. So I was in the first time I heard this term, I was actually accused of doing it. And I had no idea. I'd never heard of it. And I had a customer that was super upset. And it was in person. This is a while ago. And she was just losing her ever-loving mind at me. And then she's like, "How can you just stand there?" And I said, um, and I remember thinking, you haven't stopped screaming at me to even take a breath. Like what? And I was honestly stunned. And I was
Yeah,
like, huh, okay. Hey, Lord, I'm talking to God. What am I going to do in this conversation? She's losing it at me. And then she
yeah.
goes, "You're gray rocking me." And I'm like, what? So I said, what?
Oh,
Yeah, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. She goes, you're not even responding. I said, well, I'm trying to think of a response here. I said, I'm really sad that you are feeling this way. She goes, you're not sad. And then that started another. I'm like, okay. I don't know what this gray rock thing is, but all right. So I asked her what she wanted, and she wanted me to have more empathy. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And then she decided that wasn't good enough either. So I don't remember how it ended. Like right now, I'm having a black hole in my brain because it just felt like failure. So, but in like real personal relationships, like you would never do this to somebody. You just wouldn't.
oh,
You shouldn't.
au, au contraire, uh,
Okay.
because it happens all the time.
Does
And
that
that's
make it
really,
right though?
no, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Okay. All
It
right.
it is akin to you. Okay, if you were to say, I'm okay with my truck because it gets me where I need to go, and it's not really new, but it's not old. It's okay. Would I love a new one? Sure would. So in that you would love a new one, suddenly you start obsessing on that and you go and grab a crowbar and just start beating your truck into oblivion. You smash the windshields and all the windows and the headlights. That's where we start because those parts are easy to break with a crowbar. So I hear. And so then you start, banging on the hood. You climb up on the bumper and you are giving it all you got. Okay, so you're saying I need this vehicle. It's functional and it gets me where I need to go and does for me what I need for it to do, but I am going to destroy it.
Oh my gosh. This is
That's
such a
what
good
gray
analogy.
rocking does inside of a personal relationship.
That's a good
But
analogy.
but think about this. When everything you say gets, or it seems like everything you say gets turned around, gets twisted, gets, plugged into a narrative, gets added to that wood pile, that is the difficulties you have in a marriage.
Hmm.
When everything you say gets added to that woodpile, and you know once you say it, it's not going to be the last time it's heard.
Right.
What do you do? What just as a as a form of self-protection,
Right.
what do you begin doing?
Yeah, you just shut down. You don't want to participate in that.
Yeah, you
That's
shut
what
down,
most
you
people
shut
do.
off, you
Yep.
shut up.
Yeah, and so you tell me what you think of this, because we this causes all sorts of problems for people, but this is what I train people to do. And you can let me know as a therapist if you think it's like complete BS and dangerous. Nobody wants to do this, but they do it and then it changes things. So maybe there's a better way, but it's not gray rocking, it's boundaries. So we train people when somebody's coming at them, verbally assaulting them, you know, generally that's number one sin and number two really bad for the relationship. It's
Yeah,
and you yeah, it's not helpful at the very that's the least intense way you can say that. Like it's destructive as hell itself. Like stop that. But you don't get there by just being a pillar of stone or salt or whatever. Having having a boundary of saying,
it's
"Hey,
being a pillar.
yeah, being a pillar. I love you. Um, I want to have a different conversation when we can both be calm. So I'm going to take a break from this one. Let's try again later." And then you're out of there. And you might have to do that 800 times. And you might come back. And this is another thing. You got to come back to that conversation. Hey, do you want to talk about how you were feeling about X, Y, and Z or your truck or whatever? And give it another chance. And if they do it again, it's like, hey, well, seems like it's not a good time. I love you, but we don't talk to each other like this. Let's try again
Right.
when we can both be calm. Like you've got to implement that because otherwise people will abuse each other. They do that. And somebody has to, I'm going to say man up because it's a masculine energy that stops or starts stuff in a safe way. It's a protective energy to put an end to that. And I think that's masculine, protective energy. And I'm not saying women aren't protective. Like I'm a mom, I have livestock, I protect everybody. Like I get that.
Yeah.
But when you look at who do I like, I want a protector. I want my husband. If the bad guys are here at 2 in the morning, I want him down there with the baseball bat or what. I don't want to do that. That's, I would, but he would probably be like, yeah, bring it on. That's not me. But I don't want to speak for all women. There's a lot of women that are tough in that space. But does
Yeah.
that make sense? And what do you think about that?
It makes absolute sense. And different people operate out of different mind spaces and frameworks and personalities and gifting. And so I think you're going to immediately shift toward the thing that you do the best, the form of self-protection that you have used before and works best for you, you know.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter at a point whether you feel like it's healthy or not. It's just, I don't want to take any more incoming fire from the person that's supposed to be pointing the gun the other direction,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. So yeah, all over it.
Yeah. I have somebody who's I'm working with that's married to somebody that's borderline personality disordered. And this guy has massive temper things. And I'm working with his wife. And he's actually working with a therapist. And the therapist let me know because the wife was afraid to put boundaries in place. This simple boundary of we don't talk to each other when somebody's emotional like this. And the therapist said that's absolutely what's needed here. That there needs to be tons of things like that so that there's a safe space for him to operate in and be loved and all of that. But when he brings unsafety to the relationship or a lack of safety, then there needs to be a consequence to that, which is the absence. And it caused a dumpster fire when she
Hmm.
tried to, hey, I love you. Let's do this when we can both be calm. And he called her abusive, leveled it up, started screaming, throwing, breaking things. And then she sat there captive for a couple hours while he just ranted at her about all of her faults and why she's the problem with everything in the universe and all of that. And when I talked to her afterwards, I was like, so how did you do that? She goes, I just left the conversation. He didn't seem to need my input. And at some point, like it was an hour in plus, and he realized I wasn't responding. Um, and then he was mad that I wasn't responding. She goes, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just get done.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, here's what gray rocking does in a relationship. We talk endlessly, it seems, but until everybody gets the message, we'll keep doing it. We talk endlessly about communication and about ways to and not to, the best ways to communicate in certain situations and things not to do in those same situations.
Mm.
And so what we are doing is usually gently, sometimes with a little more force, we are guiding people toward what we call courageous conversations.
Yes.
Okay. They are conversations that deal with the topics that cause us fear. We're afraid to have this conversation, and it can be for a lot of reasons. It can be the topic itself,
Hmm.
it can be because it reveals and brings into the light our own thoughts, words, behaviors. It can be because of bad things or memories that are triggered when someone gets out of control, if in those courageous conversations people get out of control. And the list could go on, but that's not really the topic today. But we are doing our best to guide people toward having the desire to and then developing the skills to take part productively in these courageous conversations. Because what happens when they're not productive or when they're not done with skill is they turn into shouting matches and
Yep.
what you described a while ago with that couple. And then people start deciding, I don't think I want to do this anymore.
Yep.
And when we don't have when we don't have the opportunity and the platform in which we can communicate in a healthy manner, then it's scary. And the scarier it gets, the less likely we are to do it.
Hmm.
So gray rocking actually uh, circumvents the process of courageous conversations.
Yep.
It absolutely says there won't be any need for that because we're not going to go that far.
Hmm.
But if you don't go that far, then that means all of the conflicts and the hard parts about your marriage are going to get left for something else to determine or someone else to determine. And you're going to be on the outside looking in, crying, what happened? Why me?
Yeah.
So there's actually a gray rock method. What? Yes, there's actually a gray rock method.
Hi.
And it's defined, I think, as a strategy, used to deal with difficult or toxic people. But it's the part that I remember about it is it's by becoming boring
All
and
right.
emotionally unresponsive. And those two things, boring and emotionally unresponsive, are an attempt to discourage the other person's attempts to provoke you.
Okay.
So, may I move to a few of the things that characterize gray rocking?
Please do.
Are we at that point in our podcast?
I think we are.
Okay. So, the first thing people are going to do, and you're going to start listening a little louder. Um, to people around you going, are they gray rocking me? What is this? But the first thing they do is they use vague and short responses. Okay. They'll use as few words as possible. They will answer things in yes or no, or I don't know, or or mm-hmm, um, or even just body language like a nod or a shrug. So the shorter and vaguer, if that's even a word, the response, the shorter and more vague the response, will say, knowing that's
Hmm.
proper,
Hmm.
then the less likely it is that I'm going to step in it.
Yep.
And if you are from Texas or any other agricultural ranching venue, then you know what stepping
Yeah.
in
Yeah. There's some things.
means. And there's some visceral things that happen when you just think about it. So you don't want to step in it. And when you know you have, you get so upset with yourself. I did this to me
Yeah.
because I knew better.
Yeah.
All right. Second, show no emotion, give no quarter. And people will respond with very neutral and emotionless statements as nonchalantly as they possibly can. Remain calm. Avoid showing any emotions, positive or negative. Just be cool. No emotion. Don't smile. Don't frown. Don't don't furrow your brow.
Yeah. What are we gonna do about the 11s? It's
Yeah. I'd
yeah.
have to go to the Botox place before I
Botox.
had this
Yeah.
conversation if I was
Yeah.
going to show no emotion because my
Yeah.
emotions apparently are etched into my skin.
Yep.
So vague, short responses. Show no emotion. Refrain from sharing. No personal details. Limit or refrain personal details. Um, Thoughts, feelings, any emotional response. So we're going to keep things as superficial as possible and avoid discussing any personal matters about anybody.
Hmm.
Because remember, not only is that information going to be used against you, anybody else you bring into that, it's going to be used against them too.
Yep.
Keep your interactions boring. And for some people, this comes quite natural. But we're going to focus intentionally on being bored, on safe and neutral topics that are really unlikely to elicit emotional responses and keep the conversation just as superficial.
Yep.
And again, personal matters are off the table.
Yep.
Gray rockers, see, not just a verb, but a
Yep.
descriptor. You're a gray rocker, you know. Um, there's punk rockers, there's hard rockers, there's classic rockers, there's gray rockers. They get proficient at shifting the topic. And they know a conversation is headed in direction A,
Yeah.
and they're going to redirect it to a more boring and non-controversial direction.
Hmm. Yep.
So that's one. And a couple of more. They're going to refrain from arguing. They're not going to disagree or state any opinions because that can start an argument. And then they're going to disengage when necessary. And the more this happens, it seems that the earlier that disengagement occurs
Hmm.
in those conversations.
Yeah.
So again, let me look at my list because I can't do the whole list by myself. Vague and short responses, no emotion, refrain from sharing, keep interactions boring, shift topics, refrain from arguing, and disengage when necessary. You do not have to have all of those present to be a great rocker.
Yeah. And, you know, the frustrating thing about this is you're cutting off intimacy and connection when you do this. And let's say it's in the marriage situation, you've got somebody that is a drama king or queen
Mm-hmm.
and high emotional dysregulation. Okay. So they're emotional about a lot of stuff and they're angry about a lot of things and maybe they blame you for all of it. So there's times to have good conversation, there's times not to. And you can't control your spouse's behavior. So there's wisdom in deciding when you're going to have a conversation, when you're not. It's foolish to bring your personal thoughts to somebody who, let's say, just lost their job and is 15 shades of purple ticked at their boss over whatever it is, right? Or if they had a bad day, like there, some of these things sound like, well, wouldn't you do that sometimes? And the answer is yes. But it's not a way of being with somebody full time. Like you don't want to, this is like I'm going to deadpan my existence around you. Like, no, we're always about trying to establish connection with people. That's who God is. He's always trying to connect. And so we want to have an open door in that space. And if they're not going to behave well, then we go, okay, let's try this later. I love you. And let's try this later because this isn't what we do. This isn't how we do it. And you don't have to take it personally. You don't have to get your feelings hurt or whatever. Some people get really tired of being in a relationship where they're the one that has the emotional management. But here's the thing, most of the time, they didn't start in that place. Most of the time, they are just as emotional as their spouse. And then they've healed and they've done some things, and that's good. But your spouse needs to catch up, and you need to create an environment where that's a safe thing for them to do. That's my 2 cents on that.
I just thought about this as you were talking, and so I reached over and grabbed it. I did a wedding the other night, a couple of weekends ago, and um, it was a young couple, and they wanted it to be as lighthearted and basically non-traditional as possible. So I made a custom ceremony, and here were the vows. I, person A, take you, person B, to be my lawfully wedded spouse, to respect and honor from this day forward, for better or for worse, in flu season and your healthiest of days, when counting pennies or making it rain,
Hmm.
to adore and to cherish until death takes one of us away. Now, when you go to work, or when you're working with, maybe you're on a committee at church,
Mhm.
maybe you are the commissioner of a baseball league, or the pack mom and scouts or something. You didn't make those kind of promises to those people.
No, thank God for that.
Okay. You didn't do vows
No.
prior to agreeing to volunteer your time and your life and your very flesh sometimes.
Mhm.
But you did make those kind of vows with your spouse.
Yeah.
That's why something like gray rocking, which is all the rage, is effective in some levels of relationships and in some locations, and it's absolutely destructive in others.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
since we have committed ourselves with vows, regardless of how formal they may be or not,
Mhm.
we've committed ourselves to our spouse. And part of that commitment, I believe, and I'm certain that you do too, is that we communicate through difficulty with truth and honesty and respect. And we do everything we can to maintain one another's dignity. Okay. There's not a lot of dignity in gray rocking.
Mm-mm.
You can take all the gray rocks you want, break them into as many pieces as you choose to get them down to fine dust. There's no dignity in there. So the way that we're going to go about making sure that our communications are filled with dignity, are dignified for all, is that we're going to commit to the hard stuff. And that's understanding that courageous conversations are necessary. That means if there's part of courageous conversations I don't understand or I don't do well, then we're going to go do those. We're going to
Yeah,
learn.
yeah.
And we know we're going to make mistakes in the process, but we're going to do it anyway.
I love that. And it is as it should be, especially if you're choosing to follow Christ. You kind of signed up for that because he's in the transformation business.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't get to stay the same. And you can blame your spouse for the way the relationship is, or you can say, you know what, I'm called to this too. And maybe, just maybe, there's some things I could be doing differently here. So I think our stance is that we're anti-gray rock.
But do you know who the expert is on gray rocking?
Oh,
Naturally, teenagers,
yeah, that makes sense.
especially teenage girls.
Yeah.
How are you today? Fine. Well, how was school? Good. What did you do yesterday? Not much. Well, I tried to call you a couple of times this afternoon and didn't hear from you. I was busy.
That's a really good example.
Man, they're wired for it.
Yeah.
They don't want to get into a conversation of any depth with the parent because they're fully aware that it could easily turn on them
Hmm. Yeah.
or that they may be asked to take out the trash.
Yeah. That's real too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we're looking at this, we can say, do we want to be a person that changes the dynamics? Do we want to create an environment where people can be who they are and not have to be afraid of setting off one of their parents, right? Because a
Mhm.
lot of times this is what kids do because mom and dad can't handle their own emotions well. It's a defense mechanism. So, this is going to sound kind of probably not good. We might lose listeners over this, but when my kids were younger, they're they're adults now. I've got grandchildren, but when they were preteens and younger, elementary, I told them, if I'm doing something and it's scary or you don't like it, you can say to me, "Hey, mommy, you remember when you told me to let you know when you're doing that thing that's scary or I don't like it? You can remind me of that, and you have the right to speak into that." And boy, did they did that, and it was really nice. Not that I was super dysfunctional all the time, but probably enough that somebody needed to say something. So we didn't go through a lot of gray rocking because my kids knew that I wasn't going to lose it at them most of the time. And if I did, they had something they could do that would change the situation, which for a kid, that's a huge deal,
Yeah.
right? To have some sort of thing that you can actually impact a situation with, like that's huge. And I've had clients that have put that into employed is the word I was looking for, and that method, and it's been a big game changer for them. And I'd like to see us do that in our relationships with the adults too. Hey, sweetheart, you know that thing that you said about when you get scary? Right now, I'm feeling afraid. So, can we do something different here? Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be beautiful in relationships?
Well, and so if you are wanting to be intentional and proactive uh, as a parent or as a spouse, if you know that this possibility exists because you can't leave something alone, or it seems like every time you speak to one or the other, this topic is going to be a part of it because you can't
Hmm.
either let it be in the proper space or, you just drag it around all over the place. If you know that's going to happen, then it behooves you
Yeah,
to start paying attention to, you know, how, when, what, where, and why.
yeah. And the why of
Your
it.
contribution to those conversations. If you see that somebody is avoiding you at all cost,
Yeah,
it could be that they just don't want to play, but there's a pretty good likelihood that you're part of that problem.
yeah, yep.
So I've had kids tell me I won't talk to my parents because if they engage me in a conversation, I know where it's going to end up. I'm going to end up in trouble.
Mm,
And it's not just because of my attitude,
yeah,
and they think I'm already in trouble. I may as well have a bad attitude.
right. Yep. Ugh,
So,
that.
it doesn't matter what kind of relationship it's in. If you see that happening to you or if you're doing it, to someone else, then it's time for a checkup from the neck up. It's time
Yep.
to reevaluate and say, where am I in this process? And when I meet with clients and say, are you ready for some courageous conversations? And they say, yes, I'm ready. Are you going to show up? Yes, I'm going to show up. And what are you going to do? I don't know. Where's your courage?
Yep.
I didn't bring it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
forgot. You know, Mm, you got to have that in your pocket. And
Yeah.
if nothing else, to say, you know what? I'm here regardless of the outcome because I'm anticipating and expecting progress.
Mhm.
And I will give what I have, even if I don't have much courage. I will throw in what is there,
Yeah.
or I'll take a chance and say, I don't really have a lot of courage here, but I know this is what's required of me. And I'm going to have to step off. I'm going to have to dive into water that's deeper than anything I've ever been in before. Sooner or later, this sounds like a good spot.
It's so surprising to me how many people think long suffering means enduring your spouse's complaints for long stretches of time. And that's not true.
Mhm.
Um, you might endure some difficulty or issues for sure, but those kinds of conversations aren't conversations. They're damaging. And so if I was to leave people with a what to say today, it would be have the boundary. When you don't know what to do, or when you don't know how to change things, or when your spouse is behaving badly, or you feel like you're about to, have the courage to have a tiny little conversation about how we're going to take a break,
Mhm.
or we're going to have one topic. Let's finish talking about this. I know you think these are all related, but I got the bandwidth for 15 minutes about this one thing.
Yeah.
And I hear you that you want to talk about these other things. We'll do that tomorrow. Where are we going to land with this? And staying focused and having boundaries. Otherwise, people, it's just a free for all, and eventually everybody's a 3-year-old and they're duking it out with words, and it's damaging. And you can't put that toothpaste back in the toothpaste thing once it's squeezed out. Those words are out there, and they shouldn't have been said in the first place. So be protective, whether you're male or female, and have some guardrails for the relationship. Have some boundaries.
Love
And
it.
yeah, so that's courageous. That's the courageous conversation we want to start people with. And then moving forward, there's ways to talk about some of these things that are hot topics for a lot of people that are winsome and are respectful and kind. And those conversations start with God. Because if you don't have the Holy Spirit in you, you can't manifest that for somebody else. So that's my 2 cents in my soapbox. What would you leave people with today, Kyle?
Take a risk. Uh, we talk a lot about when is a risk worthy of taking? When's it okay to gamble something? And the rule of thumb that I like to use is that when what is lost if I lose is more than I can afford.
Mm,
If I can't live with what I would lose, that's not a gamble worth taking.
yeah.
So in this, if you take the risk and you step in and say, all right, let's learn to do this together. We're not good at it. We don't have the skills, but we need to develop them. The only way to develop them is to do it. And so you get online and you look for some tips, or you get a therapist, or you get a coach, or whatever, and you start, developing these things and learning them. The worst thing that can happen is that you're right back where you started. If both people are engaged and committed, that's the worst thing that's going to happen.
Yep.
You're no worse off than you were. You took a risk, and the likelihood is that you're both going to learn something and you're going to get better at it. And every time you do it, you're going to feel better about yourself individually, and you're going to feel better about yourselves as a relationship.
Hmm.
My
Yeah.
my thought leaving today is don't be afraid to take a risk in this space.
Yeah. I love that. All right. So if you live in the great state of Texas and you want to reach out to Kyle, for some therapy, you can do that. And you just send him an email at Kyle Hargrove, LPC, and it's KYLEHARGROVE, LPC at gmail.com. And you can check out more podcasts on this site. Click like and subscribe. And we'll be sure to have you talking about some sort of conflict thing in the next one because it seems to be a popular topic. Thanks for stopping by today.